Hey, and welcome to another episode of Late Night Tape 3. We may have some random people join in later on, but at the moment it's just me and Kelsey, but that's all good. But Kelsey, how are you going?
Doing good, doing good. I'm super excited to be here. I'm all ready. I got my Earl Grey here, which is Tom's favorite drink. I got my clone of his. I'm not creepy, I swear. And I'm ready to talk about him.
Um, but with that being said, normally I usually start off the show talking about trailers and movie news, but as just looking at the lineup of news, there really isn't a lot of major stuff that was there anyway, so I'm just going to scrapple that, go straight into Tom Hiddleston talk. Um, but um, but the first question I'll ask is, what sort of got you into liking Tom Hiddleston?
All right, I will admit Loki was my gateway to Tom. Back in 2011, I went with my ex-husband to go see Thor, and I remember us leaving the theater, and me turning to him as like, okay, I officially have a hall pass, so it's him. And so the crush started then, but then over the years, seeing his vast amount of work, stuff like that, I realized not only is he a very attractive man, he's very, very talented. He has done some fantastic roles, and so the love has gone from just like, hey, he's cute, to being like, I think he is probably a super underrated actor and maybe one of the better actors working right now. And so hopefully he gets some more stuff good now that Loki and stuff has happened because he's so good.
Oh, yeah, no, I agree. I'm actually the same. For me, Loki was the one that sort of got me into knowing who Tom Hiddleston was in the first place. Then he started popping up at other things I like. Like, I actually just recently saw Midnight in Paris. He's really great as F. Scott
He's really
Fitzgerald.
good.
But I mean, it's one of those ones. But might as well start off because obviously Loki's been, we've had already had 2 episodes. I know you've talked about it many times on many different channels, but
A few.
yeah, but yeah, I'm going to get into it again here because I haven't had a chance to talk about the first 2 episodes yet. But what are your thoughts on the first 2 episodes of the TV series Loki?
I mean, I was already gonna love this show before it even started, just because I'm me. But that first episode, the tone it set and kind of like the world it set up, even exceeded my expectations, which I had super high expectations to begin with, because it's beautiful. It's like the scenery is beautiful, the moments we get are beautiful, funny ones, intense action ones, and some very moving, brought me to tears. And I don't cry. I'm not a crier. It brought me to tears moments. So I think they've set up the first 2 episodes being the first act of the 3 acts that's going to be this season, set it up beautifully and just made me chomping at the bit to see episode 3.
Oh yeah, definitely. And for me, like I know there's a lot of people that were disappointed in the first episode because it was mostly exposition. I do not care. I loved it because it was mostly exposition and flashback. Because it's one of those ones like, if you're someone who for some reason has never seen an MCU movie in your life and want to just start watching Loki, it did what it needed to do. It set you up. It kind of got you knowing about his life without having to watch every single MCU movie leading up to this point.
Yeah.
So, it definitely did a good job of setting it up, and the at the end, and I mean spoilers if you haven't seen it, but it's been out for over a week now, not but that bit at the end of the episode 2 with the whole timeline and all that, it gets me excited. I was a nerd and just keep pausing the screen, typing down all the bits and locations. And so it's going to be interesting because, like, there's definitely all the classic ones like Ego, Vormir, Titan, New York City, and then there's a few random ones. I haven't found any correlation with the times specific times they put there, but it might mean something more comic-y related than anything. But it's got me excited to see what we're going to see next one, because it looks like next week this week we're going to be seeing Loki traveling to some of these locations, and whether or not the character, the female character at the end is going to be Loki, or if it turns out to be Enchantress, like the foreign credits leaked. It's got me excited to see.
Yeah, absolutely. I got really nerdy with it, and I saved all the pictures of all the places, and I didn't actually look up the comic book related character location stuff on it. I was more interested in the real world ones like Rome, Italy this year, trying to find if there was some significance, and all of them had at least a semi minor or large like thing that happened around that time. Like in New York in 47, there was a smallpox outbreak and things like that. So I'm like, why are they messing with those time periods and things? So I'm super excited for episode 3.
Yeah, I know there's a theory going around that because apparently one of the trailers you see Loki in front of a destroyed Avengers Tower and that, but as I said to some people online, it's like traveling the time bomb 247 kind of takes it too far out for it to be that specific location, because they wouldn't even be built then.
Yeah, the thing is interesting though, like I'm interested how it happens with time, because the MCU has set up time travel differently than most other things. Usually it's like time travel is like the butterfly effect. You go back in time, you do even the tiniest little thing, you mess up time, and who knows, you could have different presidents in the future, you could have different countries, like everything could be different just because of how things work. MCU is not quite like that. It's the Nexus event, so that timeline gets messed up and not the sacred one. But possibly maybe messing up 1947. The Avengers still exists, but other bad things happen because of the Nexus event. And like there's I'm interested to see, because there's so many ways they can handle this fiasco.
Yeah, I'm just hoping we see a President Loki timeline at some stage.
They have it in the trailer, and I'm sure. I'm kind of, part of me thinks it's going to be just like that was just like a Easter egg thing where it's just gonna be him dressed up that way, and like it's like a two-minute thing and that's it, and not like but I'm hoping it's like at least visited for a while, because President Loki is one of my favorite comics. It is hilarious because like he's just like, I don't tell the truth, I'm gonna lie to you like all politicians do, but I'm gonna tell you I'm lying to you, and everyone's like, that's great, like you're not lying to us because you're telling us you're lying to us, man. And it's like, yeah, pretty much.
But yeah, moving away from Loki now, because I mean, we could make the whole episode about Loki. To be fair. What are some of your other favorite Tom Hiddleston roles or movies?
I have a lot. So probably my favorite character he's ever done is Loki, but my favorite movie that he is in that I gave 5 stars, I think it's almost perfect, is Crimson Peak. I love that movie. I love him in that movie. It's a beautiful film. It is disturbing and touching and makes you kind of feel gross afterwards, but it's awesome. So that's like my favorite Tom Hiddleston movie, despite it not being my favorite character of his. And then TV. I don't watch much TV with him. A lot of it's been in places where I can't get the show and things like that. But The Night Manager, it's on Amazon Prime. It is fantastic. It has made me believe Tom should be in the future James Bond. He can pull off that like sexy spy, womanizer, but yet also like the smartest guy in the room kind of thing. So I've watched that show all the way through multiple times because he's so good in it. It's so good.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm kind of in a different boat. Like, I haven't actually seen a lot of other Tom Hiddleston roles. Like,
it's worth it.
I'm going, like, eventually I'm going to, it's more a case of just finding those movies. But one thing I didn't realize he was in until I was looking for his filmography, his cameo in Muppets Most Wanted as the Great Escapo, it's just a lot of fun.
It is so funny, and I was also an interview with him about it, and he said the first time they pulled him on stage to do his little tiny bit, he just suddenly hears Kermit the Frog's voice introducing him, and he like panics. He's like, "Oh my god, Kermit the Frog's out there," and he forgot his lines because he was like fangirling a little bit that Kermit the Frog was there. I'm like, yeah, I probably would too, to be really honest.
But yeah, no idea where I'm going with this now. It's just got a lot faster than I thought. But yeah, one thing I have actually organised is, as I like to do on the show, I like making up a bracket. This is going
Oh.
to. I mean, I think I know how this might end up going, but I've got all there we are. I've got all his roles there. It's a very random bracket because he didn't have a lot to do a full 16 thing. I took out some of the ones that a kind of lesser known, and that and if you're wondering about the seeding is basically in order from his highest rated one on Rotten Tomatoes all the way down to his lowest. But with that, the first matchup I've got, once I actually start tournament on the site.
This is going to be tough.
It will be, especially for me because there's a lot that I'm not familiar with. But I've got James Conrad from Kong Skull Island up against Freddie Page from the Deep Blue Sea.
All right, and what categories are we using to kind of rate these? Is it how much you like the character itself, or how good of a job he did with the character?
I mean, whichever way you want to go. I mean, this one's going to be easy for me because the only one I'm familiar with is this one.
Okay, because that's where I got to decide, because James Conrad's a more likable character, but Freddie Page, he's a very disturbed, abusive character, and Tom manages to pull off being very charming and likable, and also you just hate this guy because of how he's behaving at the same time. So I think it took like more work acting wise, but overall Kong is more a watchable movie, like, and easier to revisit. So I'm gonna go with Conrad too.
Next up, we've got Lord Noof from Early Man up against Dr. Robert Lang from High Rise. For me, I'm going to go for High Rise, but I think he does a great job in this. I don't really remember his Early Man character a lot. I know I've seen it once.
Yeah, this will be easy for me because I have not seen Early Man. It's one of the few of his I haven't seen, just because I'm not a huge animated person, so I kind of have to like make myself watch it, so I haven't yet. But you're right. High Rise is a weird movie. It is one of the weirdest movies I've seen in a long time, but he's fantastic in it. He manages to make a really weird movie somehow pretty watchable. So I agree with Dr. Robert Lang as well.
Next up is going to be interesting. It's got Adam from Only Lovers Left Alive up against Hank Williams from I See the Light.
This is so hard, because these are like up in my top parts of his roles. Adam in Only Lovers Left Alive, I overall enjoy Only Lovers Left Alive a little bit more. I love vampires, and he's a musician vampire, and but I honestly think he was snubbed not being nominated for an Oscar for him playing Hank Williams. I actually watched it again today because I rewatch I Saw the Light constantly because he's just so good in it. I think I'm going to go with Hank Williams. It's hard. It makes me hurt, but I'm going to go with Hank Williams.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen either of these movies, but I have seen various clips of him playing Hank Williams, and from what I've seen, he does a great job.
So
I think it's crazy that it's his lowest rated one on Rotten Tomatoes had about 18% or something like that. It's like
it doesn't make sense to me because he's so good in that movie. Not only did he lose a ton of weight for that role, he had to do an accent, he had to sing, he had to play instrument. Like, he did so much for that role. And I listen to Hank Williams, and there's times where I can't tell the difference between Tom singing and him, other than the quality of the recording, because he did such a good job. Because he is singing in that movie, that's him. And it's one I wish people would appreciate more because it's so good.
Yeah. But next up, we've got Thomas Sharp from Crimson Peak up against James Hook from The Pirate Fury.
Okay, this one's easy, but I have to give credit real quick to James Hook real quick. That movie, it's Tinkerbell, and I already said I don't like animated. Somehow he made that movie watchable for me, where I've seen it multiple times with my kids, and I literally listened to his song that he sings in that movie, the "Oh How High We Will Be." Like, I listened to that just for fun because it's good. But nothing could be Thomas Sharp. Thomas Sharp, that's my favorite movie he's in. He's so good. I'm gonna go with Sharp.
Yeah, I mean, once again, I've only seen clips of these. For some reason, I decided to watch clips on Private Food because I had no idea he was in this. But it's like Crimson Peak is just one that I'm definitely going to try and find at some stage.
Definitely, it's worth it. It's so good.
But next up, we've got The Great Escapo from Muppets Most Wanted up against Captain Nichols from Warhorse.
Okay, this one's hard because The Great Escapo is literally like a 15-second bit in the movie, but Captain Nichols, his character's not really important. He's only in the movie for a small bit. He's very, very good in the parts he is, and I got sad at parts and moved at parts and stuff. But overall, I don't like the movie Warhorse. He's the only reason I watched it, and he'll be the only reason I ever rewatch it if I do. But I'm gonna go with Great Escapo just because it's funny and I like the story behind it.
Yeah, that's the same reason I'm going for that and I haven't actually seen Warhorse yet. I do plan on watching it, but ultimately it doesn't matter who wins this one because the next matchup we've got is Loki versus the Great Escape.
Yeah, we don't even talk about this, right?
I mean, we've already broken the sort of net expert. We've already talked about Loki, so. Next up, we've got Thomas Sharp from Crimson Peak up against Jonathan Pine from The Night Manager.
This is gonna hurt either way. Okay, I've already kind of talked about Crimson Peak. I want to talk about Jonathan Pine in The Night Manager real quick. The Night Manager is a fascinating movie. It's all about like weapons of mass destruction and black markets and spy stuff. And he was just the manager of a hotel, and he kind of falls into this thing. He's so good. You just love him, and you also trying to figure out what he. But Crimson Peak is my favorite movie. I'm gonna go with Jonathan Pine because he gives you like. I can't remember how many episodes it is. I think it's 6. He gives you 6 hours of cool stuff as opposed to Sharp is only like 2. but it hurts. So.
Yeah, I mean it hurts, but I'm probably also going to go for The Night Manager too.
Okay.
I actually started watching it the other day. I've only got past I watched the first episode, but it's enough for me to go. He's really great.
He's really good in it, and it's a great show. Like not just despite him, even if he wasn't in it and it was somebody else playing it, that show, everybody like Hugh Laurie's in it, and he's almost better than Tom, and that's saying something because he's just so good.
But next up, we've got Hank Williams up against Dr. Robert Lang from High Rise.
Okay, this one's easier for me. I'm going Hank Williams because High Rise is a weird movie, and I Saw the Lights. I think a very good movie that's rewatchable. So I'm gonna go with that one.
Yeah, I'm the same. It's just for the reason that listening to the songs from that Tom Hiddleston sings as Hank Williams, you really do not know the difference.
Yep.
Next up, we've got F. Scott Fitzgerald up against James Conrad from Kong Skull Island.
I like Midnight in Paris as a movie better. I'm not a big Kong, Godzilla, big monsters movie person. I do think he had more to work with in Kong, though. Like, he does have a good story arc. He has some action in that. He's got some good conversations with people as opposed to Midnight in Paris. He just has a couple bit scenes where he does a very good job playing Fitzgerald. But
yeah.
I love that movie. And it's looking back on that movie now, having seen Loki with Owen Wilson and him together, like just see their journey that they've taken. It's pretty fun. I'm gonna go with Kong. I'm gonna go with James Conrad.
Yeah, I think this is the first time we're actually going to disagree on this. Because
it had to happen eventually.
Yeah, it is. It's just one of those ones like, I do like his character in Kong. Well, he may be a more major role. I think what he does with F. Scott Fitzgerald in a small role is really great as well. And but yeah, sadly because it's a tie, F. Scott Fitzgerald is the one that's moving hard because that's the higher ranked one there. Which means we've got F. Scott Fitzgerald up against Hank Williams.
I'm sticking with Hank Williams. I can tell I'm a fan of that movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those ones like, while I do like him as F. Scott Fitzgerald, it's also one of those ones like I would have gone Hank Williams regardless because, like, it's one of those movies I do want to see at some stage. And but next we've got Loki versus Jonathan Pine from The Night Manager.
I mean, this is super easy for me, but also it hurts a little bit because Jonathan Pine's such a great character, but you can't vote anything. You can't vote against Loki. You can't.
Yeah.
He is Loki. Like, he plays all the other characters. He is Loki.
Yeah, I agree, which means that it's going to make this one maybe easy. Loki versus Hank Williams.
It makes it easy and hard because it's going to be Loki. I mean, my vote's going to be Loki, but like I said, Hank Williams, if you haven't, anyone watching, if you've not seen I Saw the Light, it's on Tubi right now. Go watch it. Appreciate what he did for that movie. Elizabeth Olsen's in it as well, so you get to look at her, which is always a treat, and she's really good in it. So watch I Saw the Light.
Yeah. But that's always a fun thing. Just because I want to drag this out a little bit more. Just because, I mean, it's not so much that, but normally these go for an hour to 2 hours, so only a half an hour. But I know you're also a big DC fan, so I'm going to do a fun thing. If you could cast Tom Hiddleston in any DC character role, who would you cast him as?
That is hard. There's a lot of people online saying he should be a Joker. I highly disagree. I mean, he's a great actor. He will pull it off, but that would not be my first choice. Honestly, he'd probably play him a little Loki-esque, but he'd probably be an interesting Riddler, like, because he's still got the kind of the trickster vibes and the silver tongue and things like that going, but it's just a new kind of take on that. So I'll go Riddler.
I mean, talking about trickster vibes, I was actually thinking the trickster, which is somewhat of a version of the Joker, but it's not the Joker.
Yeah, I would like.
But I mean, I don't know if anyone could beat the portrayal that Mark Hamill ever did of the trickster. That's always hard. Sure. But for me, like, I'm sick with the villains because I don't know why I'm thinking of villains. But just thinking of this, I do think you'd make a great Sinestro.
I could see that. That's the thing with Tom is, okay, Tom Hiddleston himself, is a very nice, super funny, playful, kind of dorky guy that's just adorable and sweet and funny. But he plays a villain so well. He's one of those, but he has to be one of those kind of villains you love to hate. Like, you hate them, but they're charming in a way where you also kind of root for them too. Like, he's just so good at that. Like, that's why my mind went straight to villain as well, because he's so good at it.
Yeah, I mean, like, I can't think of any of the superheroes that have been out there that I think he could play if he wanted to go to the hero route. But I mean, it's hard to tell if Loki. I mean, I would argue Loki at this point is a hero in the MCU now, but it's always hard to say where he lies at any one time.
Yeah, he even as a hero though, he's one of those heroes though where you have a hard time trusting him. He does selfish things like that, but there are a lot of heroes like that. I mean, that's just a characteristic of being a person. A lot like try to think of a good example, but you know, a lot of heroes think of their self-interest a lot. So he besides Loki being more like the anti-hero back and forth thing, he could play a hero. He would do a good job, but he's just so good at being that love to hate character.
I mean, thinking about heroes that sort of think about themselves a lot, I would argue Tony Stark is almost around there.
Tony does so many villainous things trying to do good in the MCU. Like Tony, like, you caused Ultron. That was on you. like look back at yourself. You've done some crappy things that caused huge casualties and loss. So
yeah. But yeah, unfortunately, I think this is it. Because I mean, I can't think of anything else to add to Tom Hiddleston. And really, actually, there isn't one news that came out that I'll bring up because it's DC related again. They announced the cast of the DC Super Pets, and so we've got The Rock as Crypto, Kevin Hart's playing Ace the Bat Hound, then you got Keanu Reeves, John Krasinski, Kate McKinnon, Diego Luna, Natasha Leon, and Vanessa Bayer all got roles in there. What are your thoughts on this DC Super Pets cast that is coming out?
I'll admit I wasn't super like excited or intrigued about this project. It doesn't sound like my thing, but that cast, I think I am now. I think they've convinced me I need to look at it because that's an amazing cast.
Oh yeah, I mean, like, I'm one of those ones like I've said before on the shows. Like, I kind of wish Kevin Hart and The Rock was switched. Because I do not know if I could buy Kevin Hart as a serious bat kind of character. Um, Other than that, this cast and I mean, upside like none of the others, we actually know who they were actually playing or what super hits are we getting. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, I'm
with
definitely
that.
interested in more news because I want to find out who's who. Because that'll be that great. But they piqued my interest. I had no interest before, and they have piqued it. So good job on them.
But it actually another one. I'll find a way to extend this somehow. But I know you're a big fan of the Marvel Avengers game.
Yes.
They announced at E3 they were getting a Guardians of the Galaxy game as well. What are your thoughts?
Okay, so I am super into all things Marvel to the point where I'm a top fan on every single page Marvel has on Facebook. So I get the instant notification when they were going live with that. So I was so excited to get to be a part of like that the chat that was talking like when they were releasing the trailer and the behind the scenes stuff and talking about it coming out. The chat was not positive. The chat was very like tearing apart the Avengers game. And I don't know what they're talking about. I love video games. I'm not like a good video game player where I have strategy and like I know what to do things, but I love stories and I like just button mashing until I eventually can beat the boss over and over. You know, that's the kind of gamer I have. So I had no problems with the Avengers. I loved the story. I think the main arc and the main villain stuff was a great choice for the game. I loved it. So I am super pumped for the Guardians of the Galaxy game. It looks amazing. The character designs look amazing. The soundtrack, just from the trailer, if it's gonna be like that in the game, is gonna be top notch, just like it's to expect with that group of characters. I'm so sold. I want that game like ASAP.
Yeah. I mean, I'm one of the ones that I haven't played the Avengers game yet. Like I've watched the playthrough. I know the story, and the story's intriguing me enough to maybe get it at some stage and play it, just so I can play it. So I've played it.
Mm-hmm.
But the Guardians of the Galaxy game looks bonkers, and in a good way. I know there's a lot of people upset that we're not going to be able to play as the other characters. That is more style controlling it. That doesn't bother me too much.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, while it'd be good to be walking around as a giant tree, it's still like this is. I never thought in my lifetime I'd ever see a standalone Guardians of the Galaxy game at all. Because
Right.
after seeing the movie, like I kind of expected it once the movie came out, like, and then we never got anything. Like, so the fact we're now getting it, excites me. And to the point I'm probably going to pre-order it as soon as I can because one thing I mean I heard that that there's the rumors of this happening. I was like, oh yeah, it's happening. We're going to get it in a couple of years. I had no idea it was already in development,
I had no idea either.
and then I saw the release of 2023, and I was like, that is fast.
I rewound it to make sure I read it right because I was telling a group chat, I'm like, guys, this comes out in October, and then I was about to put the year, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go rewatch that, make sure I didn't like misread that. Okay, no, it is 21. But I have to admit that. Okay, so I agree, it's gonna kind of not be great. Well, that you can't play the other characters. However, that is one drawback for me about the Avengers game. It's not about the game itself, but as I said, I'm not that great of a gamer. And so having to learn like the skill sets of that many characters and like remember what moves I'm good at and like what moves work well here and stuff like that of that many characters makes me not as good at the game. So having one character I'm kind of focusing on and kind of dictating tasks to everybody else, but I'm learning this one person's skill set so I can get kind of good at it. Might be good for gamers like me.
Yeah.
Like good gamers might be annoyed, but mediocre at best gamers like me are okay.
Yeah. So which is the usual go-to character in Marvel Avengers?
Honestly, Black Widow, Natasha. Even though she's not one of my favorite characters in the movies or the comics, things like that, I kind of don't necessarily care as much about the spy angle of Marvel. Her skill set and playing her, and just like I got really good at it, and so I ended up just kind of playing her for the rest of the game. If I wanted to do things far away and like range and flying, I'll pick Tony because he's my second favorite. That I'm pretty good at his skill set. Hulk's my worst. I cannot figure out how to not die over and over again playing Hulk. So he's my least favorite to play. I like the character in the game. I like the actor. I like I'm just not good at playing him.
Yeah. But with that, this is officially going to be the end of it. I'm not going to try and drag this out anymore. We've just hit half an hour, so that's a good amount of time. But thanks for coming to join me, Kelsey. But where can people find you online?
All right, you can find me a lot of places for the next few weeks. I've been pretty busy. Every Wednesday at 4:30 Pacific time, you can find me on Shmow Me the Money talking about Loki. That same day, you can find me at 7 p.m. Pacific with the Sin Fanatics talking about Loki. I don't know if I am going to be on this week, but I have been on every Thursday with Jesse Swift's Flick and Reel channel talking about Loki. And then Call to Action. I am on probably this next Sunday talking about Schmodown and all cool things happening with it. So if you like Schmodown, check it
out. And you can find me on Tape 3 Productions, where host Rankum every Saturday night. This week is going to be top 12 X-Men characters. And then maybe not next Sunday. I haven't decided yet. There may be a late night of Tape 3 next week, maybe 2 weeks away. I've been keeping it 2 weeks lately, but things can change and I may decide to go back to weekly. But it's one of those ones there. But you can find me there. You can also find me hosting Fullmetal Classics and Fullmetal Randoms on Fullmetal Trivia. But with that being said, until next time, have a late night. Or something.